Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. Welcome to the show where we talk to writers, authors, publishers, policymakers, book lovers, and just about anybody that has anything to do with books. We just have fun when it comes to books on this show. We've got one on our hands today, so please don't go away. Thank you for all of us who send in tweets and text messages and emails, and you post on our Facebook page and so on. We really appreciate all the messages and all the feedback. And thanks particularly for the feedback we got for last week. Last week we had a lot of fun on this show. We looked at how African history is being put into content for African children and other children around the world. You know, there's so much of African history that we don't teach our children, that people all over the world don't know about. When it comes to African history, a lot of people think that the history started from post-colonization or post-independence. So most of the time in our schools, what we teach children are Independence Day history and the stories of the early nationalists and so on. But African history dates back to thousands and thousands of years ago. And part of what we discussed last week was Mansa Musa, who was the richest man in the world. He ruled the Empire of Mali in around 1312 to 1317, thereabouts, if I recall well. And he was so rich and so powerful. Now imagine taking that story, putting it into a book for children, and getting children to read about that. That's what our guest last week and his organization, Kunda Kids, have been into. We had a really good time. This week is we are focused on this book titled Queen Rita: From the Rough Edges to Becoming the Queen. The author is Rita Ewujovo. She is a lady who had such a difficult time as a young girl, but grew through all that, overcame all those challenges to become, today she's a star. She's a role model to a lot of young people out there, young women and even men out there. Rita is an amazing professional today. Now we'll get to meet with her very soon and then enjoy the Skype interview we had with her to review the book. But the book caught my attention because of, you know, the almost grass to grace story of it. How could a young girl have passed through all those difficulties and then to rise above them to become somebody that a lot of people admire in the country today? That's what this book is about. And if you it's not just for, as much as it is for every kind of reader, if you are a young person with a vision to go into journalism, you will particularly find the story very, very instructive and very, very inspiring. So let's get to meet with Queen Rita and enjoy the conversation we had with her via Skype.
Rita Onome Ewujovo is a broadcast journalist with experience extending to program production, news production, media strategy, communications, and advertising. Rita is an alumni of Radio Netherlands Media Management Training Program, founder of Onomesi Foundation, and co-founder of Women in Media Development Initiative, WIMDI, a non-profit organization focused on capacity building for women in media. Popularly called Queen of the Airwaves, Rita is the author of a memoir titled Queen Rita: From Rough Edges to Becoming the Queen.
Rita, it's great to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you very much, sir. I've been looking forward to this.
Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And well done. Queen Rita, that's what you are famously called, isn't it?
Yes, that's it.
It's a fitting title for your book. Queen Rita,
Wow.
From the Rough Edges to Becoming the Queen. I love to read memoirs. I love to read autobiographies. So when I saw that yours is a memoir, I was eager to read it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to read it until a few days ago. Now, the fortunate thing here is it's not a large-sized book, and it's a very good read. So I breezed through it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what inspired writing this memoir? Some will say so soon. I disagree. Something that you only have to write a memoir on, or an autobiography when you are in your 70s or your 60s or 80s. But what inspired this for you?
That's very true. I have gotten that feedback a lot about why write a memoir now. You're just in your 40s. Why the hurry? I wish there was another name to call the book. I wish there was another category to put it in other than a memoir, but that's what it is. I just didn't want to be boxed into that position of waiting until forever before I did write the book. And as to why, what inspired me, in the line of duty, I've had the privilege to be in position to speak to people, young people, women, and my style when it comes to talking to people is relating to issues that I've gone through, my experiences as examples. And when I do speak about one or two things that have happened to me in the past and I've handled it, whether as a child or as an adult, as a student or as a worker, or just being a woman, a wife, and a mother, the feedback I get is really heartwarming. I've had instances when a mother walked up to me, looked at me in the eyes, and said, "My daughter, God bless you." That was the time when I shared with mothers and their kids. These are people from like really, really less privileged background. And I told them my story just to make them know that it doesn't really matter where you are. It's about your focus. It's about what you believe in. And you can really make the most out of any circumstance. And that's not a one-off. It happens a lot. So it just came to mind that why not put this thing down? I mean, you can't really write everything that has happened to you in your life, but if you can pencil some of it down and it can be something that people can refer to, and when they read it, they feel, yes, I can. Yes, I can make a difference no matter what my background is. Why not? So yeah, I thought I should go ahead and do it. And yeah, that's how it came about. That's what really gave me the drive, the push to get it done.
Great, great. We'll dig into your story, which I find very fascinating, very soon.
Thank you.
But you've become successful in your career as a broadcaster. You've done really well. What's
you.
that like? I'm curious. What's that like? It's a fascinating field, to function in. For you as a woman, over the years, radio, other forms of broadcasting, what has that been like for you?
Fulfilling, I would say. For me, when I chose broadcasting, it was for a reason. It wasn't just because I wanted a job. It was because I felt it was a means through which I could impact on people. And over the years, I mean, if I was to count when I started working when I was in school, I've been doing this for about 20 years, on radio 16 years now, because I was working as a student. And I love the feedback that I get from the people who listen to me, the people who watch me. So I don't just go on the radio and talk because I have a voice. I don't necessarily feel like I have the best voice out there. Okay. I think it's about content. And when I think of my content, I think of the things I can say, the programs I can produce, the music I can play, the word I can put out there that can make somebody feel better, that can make their situation better than where I met it. If it's a crisis in a city or a situation where there is a challenge, there is no power, or there's even just a rift in a marriage, and I can have a program or there's a connect that can make that thing change for good. And I get a lot of feedback like that from, oh, I was so angry with my wife before I heard you this morning, and you have no idea what you have done for me. Something as little as that is the joy that I get from the job. So for me, it's not so much about the number of years I've spent. I know that counts for something, but the kind of feedback I've received over the years. I'll tell you the story of a farmer who is visually impaired. and called into one of my show once when I was speaking. I think that story is in the book. When I was talking to a director from the FCTA who was in charge of agriculture, and the man called in and complained about the fact that they don't get help from government. He's visually impaired. There's a whole lot of people like him who need help. So I just had to put that man on the spot, and he made a commitment. And the joy I have was that this man called me back. He didn't only call back, he came to my office with his white cane. So I really saw him. It's not a case of somebody claiming I'm blind. He was blind. I've been in touch with him. I still speak with him. But they got all the help they needed. They got a tractor to clear their farm. They've been receiving seeds and fertilizers from the government. I mean, what else can somebody ask for?
What
Just
else?
knowing that doing my job can give that kind of impact in 1, 2, 3 more people's life, I'm fulfilled. Really.
Wow, wow. Now, you'll agree that writing and becoming an author, it's a whole new ball game. How is that for you?
Oh my God. For those who know me, I usually pride myself to be someone who can talk for a living, but writing is not my strength. I always say that I'm not. Yes, I say that. I say that a lot, and people will tell me you're not doing yourself any justice, Rita. You can write. So once in a while, when I do have an experience, like once I had this experience at the airport on a flight, and I just got down while I was waiting, and I put out something and I put it on Facebook, and one of my bosses called me and said, you're wasting your time, right? You can write. You should do something. You should write. And I'm like, no. And then sometime my coach, Sam Obafemi, was saying something, and he said, if you can talk, you can write. And I realized I didn't have to conform to any style. I don't have to. I just need to communicate. And that's what I did. So if you read through the book, you feel like, if you know me, you feel like you're talking to me. I didn't want to sound like a Wole Soyinka, whom I love, or any other author for that matter. I just wanted to communicate, and that's what I did in as simple a language as I can possibly put it across. And sometimes with the slangs that are familiar to people, in this particular side of the world. So it's a different ball game. I totally agree with you. And I do feel that, I don't know whether to say thank God for the lockdown, but it kind of helped me. Yeah, it kind of helped me because all of this happened in 2020, really, Mr. Kunle. It happened all in 2020, right? I know with my kind of busy schedule, it would have been a lot more difficult for me because I don't just do broadcasting. I'm also into administration and taking care of sales for my station. So when I'm not on the radio, it's not like I'm out. I'm no longer at work. There's still a whole lot I have to do. But because I wasn't moving around that much, I had more time, to actually, putting this book together. So I agree with you. It's a different ball game. Writing and talking aren't the same at all. They aren't the same.
Good job you've done. Good job. Indeed, it is written in a very simple, very lucid style. Now, Rita, the way you talk, what you've accomplished, and everything about you is a total contradiction from your background. I mean, reading the early years of your life in this book, I was like, what? The difficulty. You lost your mom when you were very young. Then you began you started moving from one auntie's house to another, to an uncle's house, your grandmother's house. And I said to myself, how destabilizing that could have been for a child. It was really a rough start you had, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it was. It was really.
Talk to me about the emotions of digging all that up and writing that. And then for listeners out there, provide a little bit of insight into what that background was like.
My mom passed when I was about 4 years old. And to give it more perspective, My mom wasn't legally married to my dad when I was born. So I wasn't necessarily born in a home where mommy and daddy were present, right? I was with my mom at birth, and my dad was actually already married as at the time I was born. I don't want to go into their relationship because that's their story to tell. And not like my mom is around for me to dig much from her. Anyways, but my dad is still very much alive. He's a fantastic guy. I have a great relationship with him. So being a 4-year-old who didn't have a mother, and my dad had his own family, I was living with this uncle, that auntie, as you will find out when you read the book. So it meant that I moved around a lot. And it also meant that I've experienced different form of parenting. It also meant that I've experienced different form of relationship. People have related to me differently. Some have shown me so much love. Others have made me understand the fact that I'm just helping you. I don't have to do this. But I think that God has a special plan for me because I feel at a very young age, I tried to understand life as me being responsible for me. I understood early enough that I needed to be focused. I needed to believe in me. I needed to, give every single opportunity I have 150% because I may not have that opportunity again. Now that I reflect, I feel that that could have only have been God because at that age, not a lot of children would think about things like that. I could have decided to wallow in self-pity and look at people who have stuff that I didn't have. And I must say, I was never really poor. I wouldn't say I really, really lacked basic necessities. I always had shelter, I always had food, I always had clothes. But, it's easy for you to look at the neighbor and look at the other child and feel, I wish I had this love from a parent. I wish I had this kind of this or this kind of that. But for some reason, I was able to see beyond where I was. I was able to see that this is just for now. There's a time when you can take charge of your own life and you can make a difference. And I think that is the stage God has brought me to. Because I don't understand why I would have that kind of, mindset at that age. I don't think it was just ordinary that I felt, don't worry, Rita, these two will pass. There will come a time when you'll be in charge, you can call the shots about what happens in your life with God helping you. And I think that's where I am now. So having to move from this city to the other, living with my grandma, going through incidents that could have taken my life, and I'm here alive, over 40, breathing with a beautiful family, great kids who make life easy for me. I'm just super thankful. I'm just really grateful to God, really.
Interesting story. What would you describe as the central theme of your book? What's that central, that core message in your book?
You can. You can. You can.
You can.
You can. Whatever you believe you want to do, you can do it. I think that's the central message I want anyone to take away from my story so far. Because it didn't look like I can. See, when you see that from the rough edges to becoming the queen, it's because I've had it rough around the edges a lot. From my upbringing, even from my career, there were times when I've been told you're not good enough as a person. But amidst all of that, I was able to shine through. And anybody can do that. It's just a thing of the mind. No matter the situation you're in now, whether you are a child or a girl child, you don't have education, even formal education, and you believe there is a career you want to go for, you can. You're the only one. It's like they say, if you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't. So what do you say? That's the central message for me. It's what you want. If you say it and you believe in yourself and you're focused and you take charge, you can do it.
It also, in some ways, reads like a manual for a potential young broadcaster. I mean, if you are thinking of a career in journalism or broadcasting, your book reads like a manual to guide you to that. I mean, you emphasized those parts of your experiences, your history,
Yes.
that led you on and through that journalism path. Is that correct?
Yes, very true. I didn't think I would be doing justice to myself and people who look up to me if I didn't infuse that in the book. If I'm going to tell my story, and 1/3 of my life, or actually over 1/3 of my life so far, has been about media. I mean, it's just, I can take it for granted that that should be there. These days, when people join the media, there are a lot of expectations as an individual for yourself and the people who look up to you. You know, when we say look up to you, simply because you have a platform. So you're not necessarily better or way above those people who, quote and unquote, look up to you in the media. So you must have a deliberate intention to want to impact if you're in the media. But I do know that there are people who feel like this is, oh, celebrity kind of thing. I want to be popular. I want TV. I want to be on radio. It is, yes, that's part of it, but that shouldn't be the primary objective. And the fact that I read theater arts as a first course is also like something that has helped me a lot. So the media has different things that you can be and different things that you can do. And putting all those nuggets down, I decided to call them that about the fact that you need to be bold if you want to be in the media, you need to be focused, you need to be disciplined, because without discipline, you cannot do it. I had two children, two babies, working the 5 o'clock shift, resuming 5 a.m. to leave the studio by 11 a.m. and I still have work to do after that. And on each time, the day I betted that I had my children, I was on duty. So you heard my voice in the morning. The only reason you didn't hear my voice the next day was because I had a baby. I believe it takes discipline to do that. And it takes a mind shift, right? If you don't want to see yourself, I feel that some people, you when you get pregnant, you see that as an excuse why you cannot do anything. Let's not take away from the fact that you can have a difficult pregnancy. That's a different ballgame, right? But there's some of us who deliberately feel like the fact that you're a woman is a good enough excuse for you to say, oh, this is too difficult for me. And that is the reason why someone will say you can't cover this bit or that bit because you're a woman. I won't take that. Because I don't think there's anything anyone who is male can do in the media that I cannot do. And I've proven that I can do that. And every lady can do that. And that's the idea I want them to see. And my experience and my story is not just for the girl child or for women. I have people that I mentor who are both male and female, right? So I think it's about approach, it's about mindset, it's about when people give you correction, don't see it as victimization. If that's their intention, that's their business. Learn from it and move on. I was on air at the time when I was on the morning shift with, I've had a couple of colleagues from Chasby to Chris Double to a whole lot of people, Arafat Aliu, Zanda Zukeke. On there was a time Arafat Aliu would come in and do sports. I'm not a sports person. I ran marathon when I was in school. That's about it. And sports in Nigeria is heavy on football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my team. But I had to deliberately go and start watching Premier League and Championship and all that. I'm getting to know the names of players and who was coaching what thing. Because I didn't want Arafat Aliu to come into the studio and chat with Chris while I just stood there like I was a wood. I needed to equip myself, exactly. I needed to equip myself with the know-how. So now I can talk sports with you. I've had times when I read the sports bulletin and somebody called me and said, you do sports too? I said, well, I'm a journalist. But I had to be deliberate and intentional about that. It's not about you sitting to say, oh, they're sidelining me. What did you bring to the table?
Rita, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you for having me, Kulian. Fantastic job you're doing, honestly. I don't miss an episode, so I'm so happy that finally I'm on the show.
Thank you, thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. We would have gone on and on and on and on and on. Looking forward to your next book. Don't stop here, please.
I hear it's addictive.
Great. So, talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
for joining us. Bye. I hope you've had a good time with us today. This is where we have to draw the program to a close. As always, we'll be happy to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. I'm Olakunle Kasumu. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.